my job was to do games with them and a few other things. So that was at night, and supervise, some of the evening meals and things. But one thing I used to love doing was before they went to sleep, I'd give them all a hug. Yeah, because I just wanted them to know that I love them.
You're listening to Who Is My Neighbour, a podcast by You Belong Australia. Each episode, you'll join with Sorgal and Warren to meet some of Australia's newest neighbours. You'll hear their stories, listen to their hopes and dreams, and discover the incredible courage and inspiration they bring to our communities and richly diverse Australian culture. You'll also learn from some more established Aussies too, and the joy they've found living and working alongside our refugee and migrant background neighbours.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Who Is My Neighbour. In today's episode, we're talking to Barbara, who has been involved in the refugee community and has been helping a lot, not only in Australia, and also she has been to overseas and was working with refugees in Iraq. Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to hearing some of Barbara's stories of her experiences both in Iraq and working with refugees here in Australia. We hope you enjoy it. Well, Barbara, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us today. It's lovely to have you with us.
Thank you for asking me.
Can you tell us just a little bit about, I know that you have lots of different experiences working with refugees and people with different language backgrounds and different cultural backgrounds. Can you just, for our listeners, just tell us a little brief history of all of that?
Okay. Well, I went to, I've done a lot of work overseas, volunteer work, and then I got a heart for traumatised people, and so I decided to do some disaster relief.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, I better get trained for that. So I went online and I found a really good organisation in America that did disaster training, and so I spent a few weeks over there, and it was just 2 months after the Yazidi genocide, and they were starting to send teams to Iraq. They were wanting to open a safe house for the Yazidi girls that were rescued from ISIS, and so I just got a real big desire to go and help. So it took me a while before I could get over there.
Okay.
I finished the course, came back to Australia, and then a few months later I went to Iraq, and the safe house hadn't actually opened. It was meant to be open, so we did other things in Erbil. We visited some of the refugees that were in buildings that were empty, and just loved on them and gave them food and played games with the children, things like that. And we helped set up the safe house, but it hadn't actually opened. So then a few months later I went back to Iraq, and the safe house was open, and they had a program for girls. They'd come down from the camps for 10 days, and we'd just do things like teach English, crafts, dancing, outings, all kinds of things, and just to give them a break. And then they'd go back. And then I did that. It was only short term. I did it for a month.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. I just fell in love with these girls.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go. And then that was 2016 and 15. And then in 2018, I went back with an Australian organisation. We went to one of the camps. It was only also short term. And then in the meantime, I was wanting to go back longer term. But then something amazing happened. The Australian government started bringing them to Australia.
Yeah.
And first of all, they went to Wagga, so I went down to visit them in Wagga. And then they came to Toowoomba.
Yeah.
And so it was just amazing.
Yeah.
And some of the girls that I knew from the safe house actually came to Toowoomba.
Well, isn't that
and I actually knew them in Iraq.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing to have them here.
Wow.
Now, prior to that, I know that Australia has been the country of refugees for a long time and migrants as well. Were you involved in any refugee or migrant communities before that?
Yes, well, I did a little bit of volunteer work with trams, and I looked after an African family, and just whatever they needed, just to help. And then they moved to Brisbane. In the meantime, I was doing other things. So, I was doing that.
So you've been involved for quite a while.
Yes. And,
so what is it that has most impacted you, do you think, having worked with refugees over this long period of time?
Oh, I think I just learned so much from them. They're so resilient. So wanting to adjust, so amazing. I mean, to think they've been so traumatised and they're still just so beautiful, and I just love them.
Barbara, do you think going back to Iraq and witnessing what happened after the genocide in 2014, so you were there in 2015 and then 2016 as well, do you think that sort of prepared you more in terms of helping the refugees here in Toowoomba or in Wagga, and also in terms of understanding the trauma that they have been through?
For sure, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like?
In the safe house?
Yeah, when you were over there.
Okay. Well, my job was to do games with them and a few other things. So that was at night, and supervise, some of the evening meals and things. But one thing I used to love doing was, before they went to sleep, I'd give them all a hug. Because I just wanted them to know that I love them. And so I'd give them all a hug. We had some really fun times with the games and things. I did a few other things, but that was the main thing. And one lady used to go to sleep early because she had bad injury from ISIS hitting her head. And so she'd go to bed early, but she'd always wait for me to give her the hug. Anyway, so she ended up in Toowoomba. And so it was amazing. So when we saw each other in Lovell Bank Park, we were just, it was so exciting. And she talked to someone else in Kamunji and told them about the hugs, and she remembered the hugs. And I thought, wow, that's so special,
Barbara's the hug lady.
They used to call me Mama and in the safe house. So, it was really great because I just love these girls, and then they came to Toowoomba. And so, it's amazing.
Who guessed? From northern Iraq to
Toowoomba.
Tiny little town.
Not only
That's true.
And people I knew, so it's just amazing. After the second trip in 2018, I've just been a few days in Greece. And they were where they were Lesbos Island, and they were coming over in the boat from Turkey, and coming to the camps. And so they would get off the boats, and they'd all be wet, and they'd come to our tent, and we'd give them clothes and shoes and everything. So they'd line up, they'd walk up to the tent. So when they first arrived. And so that was pretty...
Straight out of the water, basically. Oh, my goodness.
And so that was... I was only there for a short time, and I was actually sick at the time, so it was a bit hard. But it was really... that was quite eye-opening too,
I would have thought, Barbara, going to those camps, for me, would be really confronting. How did you deal with that?
I just... It was confronting, and I just... it just gave me this compassion for them because, they've been in the camps for years, and it's so hard. It's snowing in winter, 50 in summer, and they're just in these little tents. And we went to visit a family whose the son and his family are in Toowoomba, and we went to visit the parents, and they prepared this beautiful meal in this tent, and it was just on this tiny little hot plate. I couldn't prepare a meal in a proper kitchen, like that. It was amazing. Biryani and dolma and salad, and it was this tiny little thing in the tent, and I just thought, this is so amazing.
Wow.
And we just sat around and, like we do in Toowoomba, and we just chatted and tried to communicate. Yeah.
About communication, I remember back in 2019, you were in the Kurdish classes trying to learn Kurdish Kurmanji.
Yeah, and you were teaching me.
Yeah.
Yes.
We were doing it at Multicultural Australia, and at that time we started doing classes
I know.
for all
And you were-
the Aussies who are working with refugees,
Yeah.
just to make that connection and make them able to communicate with that. How did you go with that after that?
Oh, well, I tried to keep it up, but because I'm older, it's really hard for me to learn a language. But you and Weston were such great teachers.
Yeah.
But I've still got the notes and I go over them and everything. But I haven't learnt much really because I just haven't got a flair. It goes in one ear and
Out the other.
yeah.
Well, it was very nice. I guess just a few weeks after the course, and Barbara met my mom.
Yes.
And I guess it was an event or something, and at Laurel Bank Park, and she asked my mom in Kurdish Kurmanji, "How long have you been here?"
Wow.
My mom looked at me, and she was very happy that somebody's talking to her in her language and asking how long you've been here. It was just so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
to hear that.
Yeah, well, I just really want to make the effort if I can, but it's just really hard because, you're meant to learn languages when you're young, but I just do a few words here and there.
But that's a lovely thing, I think.
Yeah.
And I know. Now, you've been to many countries, correct? There's this meme going around Facebook.
Many.
Right. I bet you haven't been to 10 of these places, or I bet you haven't been to 15 of these places. You'd ace every them. How many countries have you visited, do you reckon?
I've been to 50 countries.
50
Wow.
countries?
But that's just, I count it. If I leave the airport, I count
You've
it.
gone there.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah,
Even it's only a few
If you've
hours.
actually
Absolutely.
left the airport.
Yeah.
So stopovers don't count, just changing planes don't count.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary. I would guess that in most of those countries, and some of them have been short visits, I know, but just making the effort to say something is appreciated.
Yes.
Would that be true across the world?
Well, I try to, yes.
Yeah,
But, I just haven't got a flair for languages, which is such a pity when I like travelling and other cultures and things.
Yes.
But, So I've done a little bit of disaster work after the tsunami in Japan and after and in Sri Lanka and after the earthquake in Nepal. Actually, the organisation that I went to Iraq with, I also went to Nepal with them because they do lots of different things.
Yeah. Barbara, you've been to so many countries and you've had the experience of working with people from different cultures, whether they are refugees or just in their home countries during disasters. What did that add to your life as an Australian person? What did it add to your life, and did it change your perspective? And
I think so. I think you can't help but be changed by. Yeah, you just see, it's just so enriching, really. Just so enriching to meet different people and have opportunities to experience different cultures and things. Yes, I worked in Hong Kong with a humanitarian aid organisation for about on and off 6 years, and then I was in the Philippines for about 3 years, in Israel for a few months. And then a lot of sometimes if I did some volunteer work somewhere, I would sometimes have a holiday at the end or in the middle and see some other countries, while you're over there.
Wow.
So,
So is there anything left on your bucket list?
there's a lot, but I don't know. I mean, the world's different now, isn't it?
Well, it is
Humphrey?
different.
Yeah.
Speaking of bucket lists, some people have on their bucket list something which you did last year, wasn't it? You leapt out of a plane.
Oh, yes.
Tell us about that.
Oh, well, there was a fundraiser with You Belong, and I just thought, I'd love to be able to do this and help raise money. And it's always been a little bit in the back of my mind. It would be a good experience.
yeah, what inspired you to do that?
Well,
That's not an easy thing to do. I wouldn't be able to do
No,
it.
Sorgal and I are not joining that fundraiser.
Just to raise money for You Belong and to help the refugees, So I thought, well, what a great cause to jump out of a plane.
Let's just jump on.
Well, I guess there's a message there about facing your fears and things like that, I guess.
But I wasn't afraid. I was just more excited. But after I landed, I felt really sick. I think it affected my ear. But anyway, it was still worth it.
Yeah.
And I was really inspired that some Yazidis jumped out, and I thought, wow, good on them. They've probably only been in a plane.
Skydiving here, right? Just for we're not actually just leaping out of a plane without parachutes. This is a professional outfit that you went with, right?
Yeah.
But still, that is just amazing. Well, I'd have thought, that there were, I'm thinking myself, I'm, 10 years off retirement, and what am I going to do in retirement? And we get these images of retirement means, I don't know what, croquet or cups of tea or something like that. That doesn't sound like your life.
No, I'm so busy being retired. I feel like I'm earning my pension. I'm really busy. I could be more busy. I'm actually, there's so many Yazidis in Toowoomba, and they're always asking me to visit, and I feel like I'm too busy to visit them as often as I'd like to, and so just there's so many, and there's good friends, and so just got to do what you can do. But it's lovely. They're so hospitable. You go to their homes and drink chai and try and talk a bit of Kamanji and just to connect. It's so special. For me, it's lovely.
But to them, what do you think it means having been in a foreign country as a refugee and having a friend to visit them quite often? What do you think that adds to them or means to them?
Well, I think they happy that I'm wanting to do that, because they're always asking, and I think they're so hospitable. They're just gorgeous, I've got this big heart, especially for the Yazidis.
Very nice.
And sometimes, because I have been that question before, because I've been to the camps, a couple of camps, I can picture it, and so I can ask them which camp they came from and which part of Shingal they were in, village or town, and I can say those few things in their language. So, I can't say much, but
it's about that they have somebody who understands where they come from, and having been able to spot what exactly you were probably makes them more close to you and share the experience.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's lovely. It's great for me, and hopefully it's good for them too.
I'm sure it is.
So, Barbara, tell me, other people listening to this podcast who may be retired or are looking for some way to get involved, what would your advice be?
Well, I would advise I think just to visit these families. I mean, I could introduce them to some families, and because they just love having visitors.
So tell me, what does a visit involve? What happens when you go to visit a family?
Well, you just, usually they'll want to feed you.
Lots of food.
Yes.
That's a good incentive.
Yes. And often you sit on the floor and you drink chai and have some snacks or a meal.
Yes.
And you just kind of, if they don't know Kamanji, you can use Google Translate. And, that helps.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's in Arabic, but
of course.
But it helps. And I think just befriending them.
Okay.
They just want friends. They love to meet Australian friends.
All right.
And I'd be very happy to introduce anyone to take them to a home, and and then they could kind of develop a friendship with families.
Who are feeling a bit, because you've been to many, many, many countries, obviously, and you're more, people would say, oh, well, Barbara can do it, that's fine. But what about me? I've only ever lived here.
No problem. I mean, it doesn't matter. They just love to meet Australians and just be friends with them. Because like over there in Iraq and Syria, they're so communal. A lot of them from villages, and they all go to each other's homes, and they all just do things together. And in Australia it's so individualistic, and I think that's another huge adjustment for them. And so to be able to just try and break that down a little bit, you don't need to be experienced, you just need to want to befriend them,
Yeah, and also many people worry about the language barriers, and they think because they can't communicate with them in at least one language,
Yeah.
it's going to be difficult. But what I'm saying is that you say we use Google Translate to help us. That is always a way of communication, even if you don't have a mutual
Exactly.
language that you can.
Yeah, and also often they've got children in the home, and
Yeah.
they usually can speak really good, and they can translate. Yeah, so that helps too.
Yeah, for sure.
But so
Yeah.
it's lovely, So I would encourage anyone to just, if they want to meet them and befriend them, I think it's a really wonderful thing for them to do. So I kind of would love to see more people involved.
Okay.
And
Fantastic. So, Bob, do you have any plans to travel any? I know COVID's a bit of a problem at the moment, but
Well,
would
without-
you go if you could?
If without COVID, I would love to go back to Iraq again. I would love to go to Shingal because where a lot of them come from. Because I actually went to Kurdistan, but not Shingal, because in those Shingal was part of the Iraqi part. You needed special visa, but to go into Kurdistan, you could get a visa at the airport. But now they've changed it, and you can get to Shingal. So I'd love to go to Shingal and just see really all these little places that they came from.
So, sorry, just to clarify, my geography's not as good as it ought to be, but Kurdistan is that also in the north of Iraq, and Shingal is sort of beside it?
Yeah,
Is that how it
Shingal's
works?
near the Syrian Turkish border, and Kurdistan's a little bit further east.
A little bit further
that
east.
section.
Yeah. Okay.
And near Turkey and down to maybe mid Iraq or a bit north of
Clearly,
that.
I need to go and visit myself to find out where all these places are.
I've
So
never
you were
been
pretty
there
close.
either.
You were in Kurdistan. You were close to Shingal, but you didn't
Yes,
actually
but
get in.
no, we
because
weren't
you
allowed
needed-
to actually go to Shingal.
But in Kurdistan, where all the camps, the refugee camps are, and probably that's why you are in
That's right. They're all in
Kurdistan.
Kurdistan.
Yes.
All in
All the
Kurdistan.
camps. Yeah. So
Right.
yeah, but I'd love to go back there and go to a few countries I haven't been to. Maybe Morocco or somewhere.
We have a Moroccan producer here.
Yes.
I'm sure she'd be very happy to accompany you on a trip when the COVID restrictions all come down. Well, I'm thinking now, how can I, still a little way off retirement, Barbara, but how can I plan so that my retirement years are as full and vibrant as yours are?
Well, that's a good question. I think one thing you can do is maybe just try and learn a bit of their language, which you probably are already doing. It sounds like you're already doing that. So that's really great preparation.
Very unsuccessfully, but
Yeah,
carry
no,
on.
that's it. Yeah. And then, I think you're teaching English with them, and so you're building up relationships so that when you retire, you might have more time to, spend with those families that you already know, and things like that.
Yeah. So it's about building relationships,
Yes,
huh?
it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
To me, as a former refugee, I always like to talk to our senior Australians. I feel like it's always good to listen to their life experiences and also share with them, and they would perhaps understand me more. And because they have this life experience, and I love always to talk to them. And
well, that's really lovely, because I think I've noticed with the Yazidis, they respect older people. Now, some Australians say, just old people, won't worry about them. But the Yazidis really respect older people, and it's just so nice for me because I'm old, so it's
do
lovely.
they call you by your name? Because sometimes they need to call auntie. That's a part of our culture, is to call people who are older than us, auntie, uncle, or. Yeah.
They usually call me by my name. Sometimes they call me Mama, which I
that's
love.
very nice.
That's nice.
Yeah, so nice. Because a lot of them, I feel like they're my children because I don't have any natural children, and a lot of them have lost their mums, or sometimes they ask questions that their mum would help them with, because they haven't got a mum or she doesn't speak English. Sometimes I end up feeling like I'm doing what their real mum would do.
So you have a huge adoptive family.
I do.
She has a community.
Yes, I do. And some of them say, you haven't come to visit me for a while, and where are you? So it's just...
Isn't that lovely?
Yes, it's lovely.
Yeah, because as we
so
know,
loving.
Barbara, in Australia these days, people are talking a lot about the loneliness pandemic.
Yes.
Well, that was before the COVID pandemic, but a lot of
made it
people...
worse,
Which made it worse.
But
just having the opportunity to connect with other people how much more important must that be for people who've come with a language barrier? Or,
Yes.
You know, that would be amplified.
Yes, I know. I mean, I just admire them because, like, so many adjustments, you know. They've got the language, the culture, the environment, the country, everything's so different. And the it's just so different. And I think, wow, this is huge for them, you know. Yeah, it's so hard.
Right.
So I just want to make it a tiny little bit easier.
Well, I am sure you do more than just a tiny little bit, Barbara. I'm sure that makes a huge difference, because I see you at a lot of different events, and everyone I know knows you, and we're all friends with everyone on Facebook. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Barbara, it's been lovely chatting with you today. Thank you so much for coming and sharing a little bit of your story.
Yeah, it's been lovely chatting with you both too. Thank you very much for asking me.
Barbara.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, welcome back. We hope you enjoyed that interview and conversation with Barbara. Sorgul, I'm always stunned when I hear the stories of someone who has so many different experiences.
Absolutely.
And Barbara is one of those ladies who has not only had a lot of experiences, but she's still got all that vitality and energy and is looking for more. What stood out most to you from our conversation?
I think what was great to hear from her and learn that she has been to Iraq, and she has worked with refugees there, especially with women. And it also was really nice to look at, you know, how she was talking about it, and she was very excited and happy that she met her ladies or the women that she was helping here in Toowoomba. That was very beautiful to know. And having these experiences in her life, having the experience of traveling to many countries, helping many people, it's just so beautiful to know.
Absolutely. I love the way that she said, okay, I'll just give them all a hug.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Well, I guess you don't need to translate that one.
Yeah.
But she's definitely, you can see when she speaks about her communication with people, even if the language has been a barrier, she just has she said it herself, like a heart for these people, and she just loves, it's like family to her.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful experience that she's had.
Absolutely. Sometimes I always think that people don't need somebody to communicate with them. They need really a hug just to feel better and to feel safe and know that somebody is here to support them.
Yes.
No matter how hard it might get.
Yeah.
And this is what Barbara is giving.
Yes.
She might not be available to provide so many things, but she's giving something that is really nice, and people need it.
Yeah.
To have her as a friend, they're calling her mama or mom.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that many people, we've heard this also from Andre in a different episode, and she said that many people think that we need to have sort of like skills to be able to work with refugees or work or just be friend with them. Barbara is an example that you really don't need lots of things to work with them. You just gotta be a nice person.
Yeah.
And just visit them.
Yeah.
Have food with them.
Yes.
And this is, I guess, a good message to all the Australians out there that go and make friendships. It would be really nice for you and also for them.
Yes, yeah, it was really interesting, and I was really interested to hear Barbara saying, I'd go back. I'm ready to go back. A lot of people would I wouldn't want to go anywhere near there.
Yeah.
But it's the people, isn't it, that draws her. And I think that's just a good example, I think, for people in Australia that we can follow. That all we need to do is to reach out,
That's true.
try to be friends, as you say, build relationships, and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Who Is My Neighbour?
And we hope to see you in the next one.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Who Is My Neighbour? To learn more about the work of You Belong Australia, just head to youbelong.org.au and find out all the ways you can get involved and empower refugees to integrate and thrive. Lastly, would you help support this podcast simply by sharing it with others? You can also write a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or subscribe to us on YouTube. Yes, we are a video podcast as well. Well, thanks again for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Who is My Neighbour?